Welcome back to another episode of Econics Talks, guys. Today we have Victor Young. Y'all, I'm gonna just tell y'all a personal story about Victor. He gave me my first internship when I was coming right out of high school with Toyota of Tampa Bay. But he is the founder of Dunamis Premium Spirits. He's the managing partner at Morgan Auto Group. He is the vice chairman of Moffitt Medical Group at Moffitt Cancer Center, and he's also the founder I'm sorry, pronounce that for me, Victor.
Primorpheus Technologies.
There we go. Primorpheus Technologies. Y'all, he got a mouthful. Pretty much, hebomb.com. He's done a lot and he's qualified to be on this interview. So, Victor, with that being said, thank you for coming on the show today. I'm super excited to kind of get into some of what you've been working on lately. So, first question I have for you, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and just kind of your upbringing and how that kind of spawned you into entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Joshua, for having me on the show today. So I was actually born and raised in Tampa, Florida. So local, grew up in the Nucio area. They actually call it the Fish Bowl because all the streets in that neighborhood I grew up in are named after fish. So I lived on Cobia growing up, and my brother lives on Tarpon, and you have all these fish names. So local, family was just hardworking. My dad had an irrigation and landscaping company, grew up working for the family business. So that's really where I got a lot of my initial experience, you could say, being an entrepreneur, was watching my dad and supporting the family business.
That's awesome. I figured it came from somewhere. A lot of times when you see, people that get into entrepreneurship at a very young age, they've been influenced by some family member, somebody close to them, right? So that's pretty,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Now, I tell people this all the time. When you want to build wealth or you want to build something in your life, you got to start with it with one branch. You got to start with one stump. And then, for that, for you, that was the automotive industry. So can you kind of tell us, kind of what spawned you to go into that industry? Because obviously you built a lot there that kind of opened up the world to you. So just tell me about that experience.
Absolutely. So I didn't grow up um, thinking that one day I want to be in automotive. It wasn't that.
Right.
I will say from the time I was 10 years old, I had my first mini bike, go-kart when I was 12, dirt bikes, built my first car when I was 15. I was always about, you know, transportation, custom rides, went to races. So that was a part of my life growing up. At the time, I didn't know it would become a part of my career and my future. So my first job was actually at a Fox affiliate, and I started my career in television and radio. So I worked for Fox before Fox 13 was Fox 13, it was Fox 28 in Tampa. So worked in production, master control, was a switcher, did voice work. Worked at Sports Radio 910, was a producer and on-air personality for Scott Brantley and Bob Huco in the mornings on a morning show. Worked for WTMP, worked on nights, worked days. Actually had a quiet storm back in the day. It's funny thinking about, the pre-automotive Victor. And then you had a lot of the consolidations happen, and a lot of stations changed at that time. Compensation, syndication was a huge thing. I remember when we started piping in Tom Joyner morning show instead of having our own morning show, and bringing in Keith Sweat's Quiet Storm. Every time you syndicated, you lost personality. So between Sarbanes-Oxley, acquisitions, syndication, I found myself reinventing myself. So I accidentally found myself in the car business, and because of my background as an entrepreneur, my upbringing, and solid communication skills from being in entertainment, television, radio, it really catapulted me through the business. So I always say to everyone is this: everyone has a very unique set of skills. Every individual has something inside of them that makes them a little bit more qualified or talented or skilled than the next person. If you're able to embrace that instead of running from it, you can monetize it.
Mhm.
A lot of people are ashamed or afraid of their backgrounds, and they're so thirsty for the new thing that they forget about the valuable asset that's already planted inside of them that they can actually monetize.
Yeah, yep, yep. And that's valuable information because a lot of times, people, I say this to people all the time, all you have is all you need. And because that's the
Yeah,
truth. A lot of us think that, we have imposter syndrome or we compare ourselves to other people's successes and failures. And next thing you know, we trying to please other people. And so you just focus on yourself and then you'll be happy.
that's it. That
Now,
is it.
when you started to kind of really dig your heels into that industry, what made you want to commit and say, all right, this is kind of where I want to plant my flag and grow my career?
Josh, it actually took me 2 years to commit, to be honest with you.
And
My
that's
my first two
fair.
years, I hadn't committed. I didn't tell anyone what I did. I didn't tell anyone where I worked. I just, you know what, I'm going to be in this, do these car sales, and I'm going to go to a bigger radio or television market. I'm going to get a different job on air. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I excelled in automotive so rapidly that, looking at my paycheck stub one day and my commissions, I realized I'm making more than most, highly skilled, educated, uh, PhDs that are walking through this door buying my product.
Right.
And at that point, it was a problem. It presented a problem. So now my dream of moving to this other industry and getting back into this role, it evaporated because I wasn't willing to give up the amount of wealth that I was able to start creating for myself. And so I started looking at myself differently. Instead of looking at myself as a salesperson, I started to envision myself as an investor. My job was only a vehicle that allowed me to create wealth and income that I could reinvest into other ventures, whether it's real estate, education, um, uh, stocks, whatever it could be at that time. So I started to look at myself differently at that point.
So I want to put a pin in that because you said something very significant there. You said you had a shift in your mindset, like your values started to change. So can you kind of describe what was going on in your life at that time that kind of was like, you know what, I need to reevaluate some things, because my decision making process might not get me to where I want to go. So what were some of those things that you were kind of really focused on at that time?
So, it's funny because we're all products of our environment, right? Um, even just a comparison. So someone contracts an illness or disease, right? And it could be from an accident, it could be from something genetic, right? Genetic rather, and or it could be something that's environmental. And I remember the first time I heard the term in a clinical environment, it could be environmental. I'm like, well, that's odd. What does environmental mean? The water you drank, the food you ate, the power lines that you grew up next to, a chemical that you were exposed to in a factory that you worked at. There's so many things that can affect you environmentally that can cause abnormal gene mutations or cell mutations. Uh, and so if something environmental can cause a cell mutation in the body that's as simple as a liquid, then what can we do with something as powerful as our words and the pressure around us mentally and emotionally, right?
Mhm.
So I start realizing that things like uh, uh, the individuals that I was around, a lot of academians, a lot of really smart people, and so I put pressure on myself because I knew that uh, I wanted to be smart. I wanted to be intelligent. I wanted to be in that room with all the cool kids and uh, present myself as such. And so I struggled to, maybe go and educate myself more. And that was a big struggle for me. Not that I wasn't educated, but when you're in the room with PhDs, maybe I need a PhD, right?
Right.
And then I started hanging around individuals that were just good old fashioned wealthy individuals. And so I started looking at their life and it's like, well, how'd your life start? And a lot of them were just like, we had a family business. I took it over. I had a great idea. I dropped out of graduate school. or undergrad, and I chased my dream and I built this business. So I started to realize there's different approaches to being successful.
Yep.
And so I took all those uh the environmental pressure off myself to be like someone else, and I just accepted my path and the tools that I possessed organically in my toolbox. And it really accelerated my growth because instead of trying to go down someone else's road and follow their playbook, I was able to actually run my own plays that were organically normal and efficient to me. And then I would just include a little bit of good old fashioned knowledge from some mentors and some of the uh, wise women and men in my life that said, if you do this, this will happen. And I leaned into that, trusted it, believed it, and I actually shortened, my time, almost like a video game. I jumped through levels, you know,
Yeah.
and was able to find success quicker than some other people that had to hit every single pothole.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you shared that. As a young man, I've struggled with that, growing up and meeting somebody like you at that age in my life. I was like 17, 18. So I'm thinking like this is my epitome of success. But then you start to get exposed to, like you see, the academia, all of that stuff. And it's like, well, I want to be intelligent. I want that. And so then I go to Morehouse, right? And so I'm like, I'm at the best school for black men. I graduate, do this, do that. And so then it's like I'm comparing myself to dudes who went to Harvard Law. And I'm like, bro, I'm never trying to go to law school, like not like for real, for real. And so as I took a step back and I was like, okay, I want what I want, but this ain't for me. Like going to school and trying to get a PhD, like my sister can do that. I got friends that's not my lane. And so like just to
Right,
hear someone say, like, nah, like I needed to talk to some different people because my vision doesn't align with yours doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just I don't want to go down that path. And so,
right,
and I tell people this all the time when you are in entrepreneurship and you're just kind of going down a path that's, kind of not, often traveled, you gotta be able to open up your mouth to talk to people because a lot of people have been through what you've been through. But if you don't open your mouth, like you stuck at square one trying to figure it out when there are people that have traveled that path. So, like I said, anyway, just to hear you say that, it's like, oh, like I'm there. It's like the light like just came on in the last couple years of my life and it's just like, yo, some of that stuff that I used to care about, like what my GPA was, I used to stress so much about, oh my God, nobody's ever asked me what I graduated with. Nobody cares where my
right,
degree comes from. All of these things that you think matter when you're trying to chase degrees. Bruh, what does my paycheck look like? What does my
right,
ROI look like? Let's talk about business. What are we doing? So so the conversation started to change and the values because all end of the day, the PhD with $200,000 in student loans ain't doing much better than me. And so when you
right.
start to really evaluate what you take home, then the conversation changes. And so anyway,
You know,
we did all
you
day.
know, well, I
Um,
tell you what, and you just even hit on something. The conversation changes, and so, I remember, uh, you know, pulling up a Lamborghini at an event, and everyone says nice Lamborghini, and then there's one person later on that said, "Well, what year is it?" It's like there's trying to find a way to diminish the fact
that you got a Lambo.
that I just pulled up in a Lamborghini, and so my answer was, "Well, what year is yours?" And he goes, "Well, I don't have one."
Yeah.
And what I learned a long time ago is don't enter into conversations with individuals who you shouldn't be in a conversation with,
Yeah.
because they can actually make you question yourself, question your value, question your worth, question everything about yourself, and they're not even there. They're just
Qualified to talk to you.
throwing shade,
Yep.
throwing shade.
Yep. And just to get to a point where that takes a lot. And I don't think people really realize that, like how much self-confidence that takes and just self-work and having self-worth to be able to stand out. There's a reason why you're the CEO because the people don't have your headaches, but they also don't have your paycheck. And so
You're
people don't
right.
understand, like, well, yeah, you're the person that gets called when there's a break-in. If there's something that goes wrong, if the partners aren't happy, they're calling you. And so
Yeah,
it's like, okay, well, you want his paycheck, but you don't want his problems. But
sure.
people, they have a certain level of understanding, and you only understand where you are typically. And so that's why I try to
You
tell
know,
people, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and we're all on this planet for a different reason, a different mission.
Right.
And so we can't make everyone think and behave like us.
Mhm.
And recently I had an individual who does great things in the community and feeds the homeless and does a lot of very noble things. And I love it and support what he does. But he looks at me and he says, he goes, yeah, your life is so different from mine. He goes, you drive around your Lamborghini, fly in your helicopter, and he goes, what are you really doing for the world?
Right.
And he missed the whole thing.
Right. Yep.
He missed the whole thing. His job, his mission is doing what he's doing right now. That's what God designed him, the universe, whatever you believe, designed him to be able to do.
Right.
On my end, I'm able to go out and find young men and young women who want to change their family dynamic, who want to break the curse, who want to create legacy so that we don't have people, as many people who are homeless without support, without a foundation, without an advocate. I'm working on the other side of you.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing me as working on the other side when we're on the same team, he saw me as just this guy
Yeah.
who's out there doing it for myself.
Right.
All the young billionaires and all the families that I've been able to impact hasn't watched a thing of that. So
Mhm.
I always, again, you can have someone plant a negative seed in your life that makes you doubt and question your mission and your objective in life. Don't ever let them do that. Make sure you stay on the course,
Yeah.
stay on brand, stay on mission, and do your thing.
That's real, man. Y'all, he dropping gems, man. Come on, Victor, talk to the people. Yes, man. So I appreciate that. Just dropping a lot of knowledge. Now, leadership. So obviously building your business, going from one company and going from one to the next, elevating. What has been your overarching, leadership philosophy that's kind of carried you through some of these transitions?
So funny story. I'll watch CEOs and you'll see different CEOs change companies, right?
Mhm.
Someone will go from Sonic Automotive Group to Pepsi to Pet Boys parts, and you're like, or Boeing to what? I mean,
I was
you
gonna
see
ask
these
you
people
that. I have
jump
that written
companies, right?
down.
So
Yes.
it's like how can they go from Coke to airplanes or cars to healthcare or food? How do you do that? Did that person go to college every single time for every single one of those industries? The answer is no. The answer is no. What these people are doing and what I do is I replicate myself in multiple environments. And so I know what's on brand for Victor. And when an organization needs the skill set that I have, I'm able to catapult them in light years ahead because I'm so focused and so good at what I do. Now, can I walk into Moffitt Cancer Center, walk into a surgical room and glove up and save a life? No, there'd be bodies everywhere. I would probably be in prison, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I can do is I can see things from a different vantage point and POV that a surgeon or a researcher can't see because they are saving lives. They're doing something that's very important at the time, and so they really don't have the POV to step back and me to see like our P24 initiative, Patient 24. How can we intake and process and improve the environment and the process for patient,
Right.
or recruiting a world-renowned expert and being a part of the recruiting process, or whatever it may be, using medical information technology to allow more patient throughput without killing a physician's clinical or research time, right?
Mhm.
So a different POV with a different mindset allows you to be very effective in different environments, whether it's automotive, whether it's Primorpheus Technologies, whether it's Dunamis Premium Spirits, um, and I'll look at my background in film, television, and radio. I had a film company, just sold my interest in digital caviar last year back to the partners. And but before that, it was Victor Young Productions. We combined the companies. We were digital caviar, and we made movies for Ambi Pictures, Grindhouse, Disney, Lionsgate, and all that experience from my production days, whether it's all the way back to radio, television, and through film, went into the building my brand, my bourbon brand, Dunamis Interstellar Bourbon.
Yeah.
the Dunamis brand itself, the overarching power brand, Bianca Supreme, Barrel Aged Rum, Zulu Hotel Airman's Gin. All these products were born and birthed on my lifelong journey and experience, and it went into this new company.
That's
So
cool. That's so
yeah,
cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask you a follow-up to that because you spoke on something. I told you I wanted to hit on that earlier because I wanted to ask you, because looking at your resume, looking at, your background, you've been to a lot of different industries. So what's the common factor that you've been able to identify? Okay, I don't care what business you're in, these are your core key, KPIs that you need to follow that is transcendent on any business. What are some of those things that kind of transcend no matter where you are?
it's funny because before you even get to the KPIs, you got to go back to the mindset.
Hmm.
So one thing that I've been known as in every single business or industry I've been a part of is I am 100% fair, um, across the board. I don't have favorites. I don't have cliques. I don't have buddies. I don't have a team that I drag through the door and fire everyone else. People know that when I arrive to create continuous improvement cycles, to inventory our assets and our challenges, and we're gonna put together one heck of a game plan. So the first thing is you've got to take inventory. I see people come in and they start laying down KPIs, and they don't even know if they have the assets, the tools, the human capital, the technology to even deploy, let alone execute that KPI.
Hmm.
So I like to put things in order. What's the low hanging fruit that the teammates, the stakeholders, the partners, the board, whoever it may be that I'm working with, how can we set some standards or some KPIs that's low hanging fruit that we can actually see the progress in a short period of time, get some momentum, and create some glue for that team. All right, the team just we just got a first down, right?
Hmm.
Let's not think about the Super Bowl yet. Let's get some first downs. Let's make it out of the postseason into the playoffs, and
Right.
now we're talking about the championship game and then the Super Bowl,
Hmm.
and I think sometimes people go too far too fast without having the knowledge they need, um, taking inventory of the human assets, the organic assets. I'll give an example: making movies. You can try to go to a studio and spend $10 million to create a $2 million movie. It loses $8 million. Your investors goes away. The studios run from you, and you're mud in the industry the rest of your days.
Yeah.
Or you can make a $2 million movie for $1.5 million because you made it in an environment that you had access to, locations that were practically free, if not free. You had local government, state government, incentives behind you. You
Right.
had actors that organically lived in your market, or influencers that said, "I love to be a part of it and I like your cause." And so, really being able to go back and pull things together that exist organically, that can provide added value and capitalize a deal so that it brings so much more value that by the time you package it,
Hmm.
an investor says this thing has $3 million worth of organic value in it. And yes, I'll invest in your $2 million movie because the risk is minimum. So it's like being a risk manager, minimize your risk.
Right, right, right. And see, it's crazy, man. I really, really enjoy hearing you speak from that vantage point because that one, it gives me hope because that's the goal, right? That for me personally is to have a portfolio that you manage, whatever industry it is, you manage whatever you want, but you have the skill set that you developed over time that says, all right, I got this knocked out. Now I know how that works. I know how that works. So if you're going to advise any young entrepreneur, what's some things, some books or anything, what's kind of some starting points and building blocks that you say that you would kind of advise people that they focus on when trying to go and build that expertise out there?
There's a lot of great books out there. Books, right? Michael D. Abrajoff, It's Your Shiv. I mean, Good to Great, again, classic. Ram Shriram, Execution. It's a lot of great books, and a lot of new stuff out there as well. Raving Fans and Peter Thiel's Zero to One. I mean, I could name a gazillion books. But one of the big things I would say is find books that mitigate your weaknesses and find books that maximize your strengths. Everything else in the middle, you can get along the way, right? So if I'm really good at something, how can I become amazing at it to the point where if you drop me on any planet, any country, I can go execute it from any vantage point. Being a helicopter pilot, airplanes. I'm also a fixed wing pilot, so I learned flying airplanes first. So you fly an airplane and there's a runway, and it goes, you can land on either end. And if the wind is blowing, you need to land into the wind. And so you pretty much there's an advisory, you listen to it. Okay, they're using runway, 28. So today I'm landing 28. Tomorrow I'm landing 05 because of the weather. But when you fly helicopters, you land in places that aren't controlled, uncontrolled off landings, off airport landings. And so your skill set has to be 10 times higher because you could be landing from any heading on the compass 360 degrees around at any point. There's no control tower. There's no ATIS. There's no weather guy. You just have to be able to know your environment and pick one of 360 degrees of approaches to land in a spot, right? And so it requires your brain to be more aware of your surroundings all the time and have more skill, more tools in your toolbox. And so with that said, it's creating awareness of the moment that you're in, having the skills and the experience and the learning to transition out of that moment. And so I focus on those emergencies a lot. And if I can control the emergencies, you've got more skill than you need to do the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
emergencies require a lot more awareness, right?
Oh, they sure.
So a lot of people spend time in the middle, way too much time in the middle, just collecting what I would consider, I won't call it useless knowledge, but just knowledge.
Right.
Focus on the emergencies on one side and focus on mitigating your weaknesses and closing that door. It's almost like in the cyber world, where those vulnerabilities exist. How
Yeah.
can I go to zero risk, uh, protocols, framework, mitigate a vulnerability, and prepare for the worst on the other side? Everything in the middle is a cakewalk from there.
Yep. I like it. I like it. So, with that being said, a lot of people want to know, well, how in the world do you manage all of this? Right. So you talk about reading and strengthening your weaknesses, and, making your strengths and just doubling down on those. So what does a day look like? How does that discipline look like? Are you super disciplined? I mean, what does your calendar look like now? Has it changed over the years? Things like that.
My calendar has changed. So in the film world, um, you'll have a story arc, right? In the film world, you have a story arc. So the actual film itself will have an arc, and it'll take you somewhere. You know how it's going to start, you know how it's going to end, but you have this arc in the middle where the characters develop. Um, and then you'll have a character arc per se. That character at 10 years old acted and behaved this way because of his environment from birth to 10. And then from 10 to 20, this character evolved into this person because of his experiences at high school, his neighborhood, you know, a birth, a death of a parent, a divorce. And then from 20 to 30, this character evolved again based upon, you know, uh, graduating college or not. They got married, they had kids, they went to prison, they won the Nobel Peace Prize. And so everyone develops over time and changes. And so things that were important to them in that time and moment evolves. Individuals who are able to have a true character arc and let things go that no longer have value in their life always do better than people who try to hold on to everything. Because, whether it's a car or an aircraft, the more things you're holding on to that are sticking outside that fuselage or outside your airframe creates drag and it slows you down. So you got to be able to drop things that don't no longer have as much value and pass it on to someone else happily or let it die by the roadside and bring on something different and new into your life and have the courage to be able to do that without people thinking that you just failed or looking at yourself like you just failed. You outgrew something, give it to someone else, gift it, sell it, move on from it. Don't
Yeah.
let it get in your head.
Yeah, now that's real, man. So, because even on my short career, I've had a couple of professions already, and it's just like, okay, you eventually find your footing. But I think people kind of get caught up in, okay, this is my identity. I work here. This is what I do, and this is who I am. And working in corporate America, for some years, I kind of started to see that. Like, the longer I was there, I'm like, people would kind of look at me weird for having outside things going on. And I used to hate that. I'm like, why y'all criticizing me? I got stuff going on outside here. And I didn't even really talk about it. But the mindset was it's frowned upon to have anything outside of your job because that thing is going to take you away from us. And so your
They're discounting your intellect.
there you go. There you go.
That you can't walk and chew gum. They're
There you
discounting
go.
your intellect.
Yep, this is all
And
you.
what I've learned is this: when I go out and Governor Scott appointed me to the Florida College Board back in 2011, gubernatorial appointment, and so being a trustee there, I was able to go to some events, and you hear Bill Gates and you hear all these speakers of multi-billion-dollar companies. I was able to bring a lot of that knowledge, insight, futurism back into my automotive group
Mm,
and make sure that we're future proofed, make sure we know what tomorrow's client looks like, make sure we understand human behavior, make sure we understand socioeconomic educational trends and what it means in our marketplace, and utilize
right.
all of it. So sometimes people don't realize when you expose someone to other data, other industries that influence yours, it's you can't even monetize it. It's invaluable.
It allows you to make decisions for the future. Again, risk management. There you go.
That's
So
it.
with that risk management, I got another question for you. I mean, this is a good conversation. As a leader, your decision-making process. So obviously you faced a lot of tough decisions. You might have had to fire people, hire people, all kinds of stuff. You just never know. So can you kind of describe what do you consider in your decision-making process from like, what do you prioritize over other things?
Decision making when it comes to personnel. Um, no one ever wants to fire anybody, right? And when I hear people say my boss just wants to fire me, right? You hear that sometimes. Well, who hired you? Well, he did or she did. Well, hold on. I'm confused. So she hired you, but now you honestly believe in your heart of hearts that she wants to fire you. Couldn't
Right.
she just fire you by not hiring you? Right. So normally there's something there that we're not looking at. And so uh, I make sure that I am very clear at all times with an individual, whether I'm excited with them, whether I'm concerned for them, whether they're off mission, on mission. I communicate it very clearly all the time. And I will never communicate beyond the conversation that you're having, you and I having. This is my tone. This is my engagement. But when I speak to someone, they know it's serious. I don't
Right.
waste words. There's nothing where I say I feel like whatever. There's no feelings. There's no emotions in what we talk about in the business world. My emotions and my money don't even know they exist. They live in two different planets. And so all the decisions I make are based upon the mission. Are we exceeding in the mission? Are we failing in the mission? Are we on track with the mission? That's it.
Right.
And if we're not on track and we're not tracking the mission completion, then we're going to talk about where's the distractions because we're off track. And the mission is going to get tougher as we go along. It's not going to get easier because in people's mind, sometimes the thing that they're dealing with in that moment, they think is going to be the toughest thing they deal with. And they don't realize there's another bigger challenge on the other side of this part of the mission.
Right.
So I only speak in exacts. I only speak about the mission. I even let someone know when I'm concerned for them. I'm very concerned about your future with the company. I'm very concerned about you finishing this product. How can I be of service? What could I teach you? Where could I send you? How can we make sure you have all the ammunition, all the tools, all the resources that you need to be successful? And so it starts with coaching, providing the resources, supporting someone, but communicating every step of the way. The biggest problem is we want to be nice. We don't want to tell someone when they're in jeopardy. We want to tell someone when they're behind. And by the time we step up, then we're in an emotional state and now we're angry. And all this person sees is our emotion. And now they're going to refuse the help because they see this emotional person in front of them and they're going, this person's trying to fire me and I'm not going to give them that. And they can't see where I'm at and I can't show weakness. That's how business relationships fail.
Let me ask you this. How has that philosophy of yours evolved over time? Because I know you didn't start there, because it's tough to fire people. You built relationships with folks, you hire them because you care. And so how has that growth, or how you manage the emotional side of it? Because it's not like you give a damn, you care. So how do you manage that side of things as well to make sure that you aren't coming off as, just a no nonsensical boss that doesn't care about anybody's, at home things? How do you balance that?
Right. It takes balance. It takes balance, right? Because frankly, there's people. Not everyone in a business environment is authentic, right? So there's people who manipulate and take advantage of situations, and then there's bad bosses out there, right? There's people who just don't have the leadership skills, and they're being a boss instead of a leader. So how do you balance all that? When there's an opportunity for me to thank someone and commend someone and genuinely communicate with them about their well-being, I take every advantage to do that. I will not miss an opportunity to say thank you or great job. So now we've got to have the tough conversation. I'm not this guy who stays so tight and tense and afraid of a human interaction that I've never said thank you, that I've never said I appreciate you, that I've never said I'm investing in you. And I see that you're investing in us and me. Uh, I take advantage of every moment so that when the tough conversations happen, is not the only thing they've ever heard is a tough conversation. And a lot of people are afraid to do that because if they figure if they appraise someone or give them good feedback, that that person is going to look at them differently when they have to have a tough conversation with them.
Yeah.
And in actuality, the individual on the other end is thinking, I never even knew I was in jeopardy. I never knew I was doing a bad job because you never told me. And then you jump out of the bushes and it makes it look like you're just trying to fire me.
Right. Right. That
So we
makes
fail as leaders when we don't communicate every step of the way and let someone know where they stand and also let them know that they are a part of the team and they're valued and their personal well-being does matter. Now, I will say this. There's some individuals that every day they got a personal problem, right? And you say, how's your day? Man, you got a 20-minute dissertation of something happened, and you'll get to your point where you're like, I'm never going to ask that person how their day was ever again.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so so this goes back to the team and hiring people. Uh, Years ago, there was an individual that I helped with an opportunity. And when the opportunity, the door opened, this individual wasn't ready. And it was embarrassing because they told me if I could just get to this point, I could change the world. And I really put myself out there and help this person. Come to find out, he couldn't leave the state. He had issues with his driver's license and child support and all these things. And meanwhile, he's got this big opportunity in another state and he can't even get there. And
Wow.
so I learned in that situation, this is years ago, that I won't invest in someone past a certain point until they're already on the flight deck, pre-flight, fueled up, and packed and ready to go.
They're
You
serious.
have to be ready before I make the investment, not you get to become ready after I get you there.
Right.
So I just reversed how I vet an individual and when I give them, my chronological assets, my time assets, my resource assets, whatever it is that I'm putting into that person, funding. I make sure they're ready to go. They've been vetted, and I know they can take advantage of the opportunity when it presents itself.
And that comes with life experience, because when you start investing in, honestly, Victor, it's more or less one of those things when you start doing the work on, yourself, and you start to really develop and kind of make decisions on your own. It's not like you're criticizing others, but you understand what it takes to get to a certain level. So
Right.
it's okay, well, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just you're not serious yet. I know you
Right.
weren't serious because I know when I got serious. So when you start to make these different connections about how people approach whatever they're going after. And it's like, all right, yeah, you ready now. So it's just to see that, like, all right, that's a decision making process that you go down. When somebody, people talk about mentorship and how, you just ask somebody to be your mentor. It doesn't work like that. You got to earn that. Like, why is a millionaire? Why is a person why are they giving you their time? What value do they receive? If people think that mentorship is a one-way street, no, it's a two-way.
Absolutely.
It goes both ways. And it's not necessarily have to be monetary, but if you're giving somebody your time, you want to see this
Time is
person.
money.
There you go. Period. And so that's cool. Now, I got to get you out of here by two. So I got 10 quick questions. I want to ask you some fun ones, quick hitters. So here we go. We call these the Econics 10. My first question for you is, what would you title this chapter in your life?
Wow, that's a good one. The chapter that I'm in my life. This is rated G. No,
It's not.
I, I I'm at a chapter in my life where it's just no BS.
I feel you.
No BS.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you're not ready, don't talk to me.
yeah,
My, uh, you know, we don't live that long. This life is shorter than we think. And I'm in my early 50s, and unfortunately, my mother and father passed away at 74 and 75.
wow,
So I
yeah,
look at this like this is the last third of my life.
yep,
If I you know end up where my my grandparents and my mother and my father left, and passed. And so for me, my time is very serious right now.
yep,
I won't allow anyone to waste it.
yep. I respect.
And so, no BS.
I like it. I like it. Number two, what superpower would you have? You talked about story arcs, man. I'm an anime lover. I love stories. So what superpower would you have right now?
Wow, my superpower. You know, my courage. I would consider myself very courageous. I'm not persuaded or pulled off course. I don't let peer pressure get to me. I don't let people discount me and make me feel less than. And then more so because of my humble beginnings and because of how I work, I won't allow someone's uh, perception of my success make me work less,
Yep.
because people try to throw it in your face when you've worked like a savage your whole life to build and create opportunities for family and friends and loved ones and community. And then at a certain point, they act like you were born with it. When I was out digging holes at 12 years old and sitting on the back of a truck eating, my lunch on the side of the road with a work crew, getting called names on the side of the road. Nobody was there for all that,
Yep.
right? Nobody was there for any of that. So when
Yep.
someone starts talking about, my arrogance and my greed, um, it makes me think less of them as a human, and
Mhm.
it makes me realize how immature they are and how they haven't even started yet. And if they could walk in my shoes for the shit that I've had to go through, uh, they would know how immature and ignorant they sound.
Yeah, people don't know, man. I tell people all the time, when you see somebody as successful as yourself, they paid a price. Everybody got to
Yeah,
pay a price. Everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody has a price to pay. So for whatever you got, however great that gift is or that blessing is a price. And so people
yeah.
criticize because they don't know the price you paid. But I'm starting to learn that now. Like, yep, you got to earn this thing. So thank you for that. Number four, if you weren't doing this, if you were not, would you do a lot of stuff, but if you weren't doing this, what would your other profession be?
So I fly for myself personally.
Oh,
If I weren't doing this, you know what? I like to just hang out on the airport with my helicopter, my Jet Ranger, and fly people to Key West and to the beach, and
that's
just
fun.
do something fun.
Yep.
Do some life flights, do some Make a Wish flights. I just fly people around, have conversations, invest my time and experience in the cockpit on the way, and I do that.
I like that. That's cool. Number five, you got five dinner guests, dead or alive,
Yeah,
coming to your table.
my goodness. Wow. This could be crazy, right?
Yep.
This is going to be crazy.
I want to hear this table.
Wow. Now, this really is going to sound crazy. However, I look at history, and based upon history, I look at leaders who've done good things. I look at leaders who've done bad things, and I look at people who have evolved and had a character arc during that time period. So I give an example before I give you my list. You have Napoleon, who actually started with good intentions before he had his excessive compulsive disorder per se, and you just couldn't stop going to war. It's all war was what he was good at. It's what he knew, until the point where he had conqueritis. We had to
Right.
go and conquer everybody. The guy got off the chain per se.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
uh Look, Jesus will be at the table because I've got questions. I don't know if he was always the peaceful guy that we make him. I
Yeah,
think Jesus might have been a little bit tougher than we think.
I think he
Um, yeah,
was.
Martin Luther King,
Yep.
uh, Malcolm X.
He had a story.
Uh,
I was hoping you said him
he
because
had a story,
her art changed too. Yes, he did. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Gandhi, another one.
Mhm.
Who would be number five?
Yep.
Wow, that's a good one. Number five, I'm going to give number five to Dead or Alive, Have Dinner. You know what? I'd bring my dad back.
There
I'd
we
bring my
go.
dad back.
Great
So
pops.
many things I've learned that
Yep.
he taught me that I didn't understand until way after he passed.
Yep.
And I just want to be able to tell the old man, thank you. I get it now.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot more he could have taught me that I probably prevented him from teaching me because I was hard headed along the way.
Yeah.
And I made the transfer of knowledge between him and I more
Oh,
difficult than it could have been. Thank God I got enough of it, but
yep.
definitely so.
Yeah, it's crazy because you probably got the lessons. They're there. You just didn't realize them until that time came. It's like, hey, my dad did teach me
Yeah.
that. Yep. It's crazy how that
You know,
goes.
and today is my dad's birthday, and I tell you what, it took me 7 years after he passed not be able to cry when I brought his name up. I mean, that he
Happy
had an impact on me that I
birthday to
didn't
that.
realize when he was alive.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. My dad passed in, I think I'm going on 8 years now. It's crazy. Feels like it's yesterday. Feels like it's yesterday. Number six. Who is your celebrity crush?
Jeez, my wife won't let me have one, man.
Man, all right, cool. The wife is it. That's all. That's cool. Safe answer. Number seven.
That's it.
This, yep,
Tia,
number
Tia
seven.
Young, that's my celebrity crush.
Here we go. All right, something that the average person would not know about you.
Wow, something the average person wouldn't know about me. I'm extremely technical. When I was 18, I was fortunate enough to uh, get a lot of training from some of the old hobbyist computerist back in the day, and that has stayed with me. So my understanding for technology, hardware, software, and now moving into AI has made me a little bit of a futurist per se, and a highly technical individual.
We got to have some offline combos about that. I'm definitely want to talk to you about that later. All right, number eight. What is your favorite productivity hack? Like, what do you use to kind of jumpstart you to get things done?
Wow, what do I use to jumpstart me or get me going? You know what's crazy? My brain doesn't turn off much. It's more difficult for me to shut it off than it is for me to start it up. I even had to learn to keep something next to my bed so that when I have an idea, I can write it down and allow myself to go back to sleep. If not, I used to have to get up and go work on it or document it. My brain wouldn't turn me off. But if I had to think, what charges me up? Um, you know what? Aviation. You know, I see a helicopter, or a jet, something that just hearing a pilot seeing a maneuver that I'm familiar with. It's skill based. It just makes me get jacked up.
Go, man. I like it. I like it. All right, number nine. Name three of the most influential people in your life.
Three of the most influential. Number one, obviously, my father. I'm going to give my mother a spot in there.
There you go.
Um,
Count them as one. Parents
Maybe
count as
two
one.
more.
Yep, yep.
Parents are all right. Parents are one. Great. Larry Morgan. Larry Morgan, I met at a great point in my career, going to the next level. My partner at Morgan Auto Group. At the time, I was a president of Loki Motor Company, and just I learned a lot of acquisition, cash flow, looking at a business from outside the operations aspect of it. And I was already an operator, president of a company, operating officer of a company. I got to learn a lot about the executive side and understanding capital and valuation. And Larry's a good guy, is a real good guy. So Larry Morgan, and I'm going to give you one more, one more. That's tough. I got a lot of really solid role models out there
Good.
uh, that I could choose from. I'm going to give you one that's a gentleman that's probably um, I've watched him from a distance over time, and because of his schedule, my schedule, there's times we talk, there's times we don't talk. But his name is David Grain, and David Grain opened a company called Grain Communications. Howard guy, and has grown a billion-dollar company a couple times, and
Wow.
so he was definitely instrumental in giving some of that experience of getting through some challenges when you're growing billion-dollar companies. It's a different challenge when you're growing $1 million company versus building a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get there one day. All right, number 10. This is the last one. Last one. Fun one. PB&J or grilled cheese?
Whew,
From Tampa. So
that's tough.
yeah,
That's
you
probably the toughest question you've asked.
Tampa, man, you gotta have one, right?
You know what? We ate a whole lot more PB&J than grilled cheese, but I tell you what, a well done grilled cheese sandwich, butter on both sides, and that skillet,
Yep,
little
yep,
crispiness on that toast, it's
fire.
hard to beat.
There you go. There you go. Yo, Victor, thank you so much for answering my questions. So, everybody, he will be the keynote speaker for the CEO Experience partnership with Andrew Ware. You guys have been familiar with my partnership with him as well. This event will be taking place on March 8th. So check the link in the show notes for your tickets, and then we will get that out there. Now, Victor, the last thing I need from you, tell everybody how they can contact you if they want to do business from you, buy a car from one of your dealerships, whatever they want to do, just tell us how we can find you.
A couple things.
Okay.
So right now, the biggest thing, Dunamis Premium Spirits, my distillery brand, it's growing nationally. We've got an amazing bourbon, Dunamis Interstellar Bourbon. You can find it at Total Wine and More. You can follow us on all of our social media at Dunamis Spirits. So Dunamis and then Spirits, or Dunamis Premium Spirits online. You can actually buy from 44 states online. So we ship direct to the house from our website, dunamispremiumspirits.com. And if you just want to follow me, my podcast, and some of the other things I do, then just follow me at the Victor Young on Facebook or Instagram.
Thank you so much. So, guys, I will also add Dunamis Premium Spirits and all of their links in the show notes as well. So go to the show notes. You literally click the link. It'll reroute you right to his pages. Victor, thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate you, and I would love to do this again. And that's it. Y'all have a good one. Peace.